Today on the show, we're answering your hot takes, your questions, your cold takes, all that good stuff. So, first one is from House of Chayton. 2K24 is the best 2K game since 2K14. My gosh, what a bold claim, my friend. It's up to the beholder of what they think. You guys let me know. Is 2K24 one of the best games we've had? A lot of people are very fond of 2K14. A lot of people think 2K19 is better in some ways. I gotta say 2K14 probably gets the edge for me because of the story, because of the showcase that they had. You had 30 years of WrestleMania, which was way more flushed out than what we got for the 40 years of WrestleMania. Also, can we go back to like having in-game cutscenes instead of them doing the slingshot tech thing? I loved it so much more. You had the real commentary, but it was all in-game. They didn't take you out of the action. The other thing, I think what gives it the edge as well is, well, you got story mode in there, and you don't got that in 2K24. We've been waiting years for this thing. I think fans are like really gun-ho on getting a story mode in the future, because universe mode is not doing it anymore. It feels very dated. I mean, you can go back to 2K14, there ain't much of a difference. Although I kind of like 2K14 just better. Johnny Faps says, hot take, my faction is actually pretty fun, engaging. Just the VC and unachievable persona aspects make it suck. So it's like half the mode. It's the best thing ever. It just sucks for majority of it. Sorry, that made me laugh. Okay, so people are gonna be on kind of two sides here. Majority of players don't like the My Faction mode because they feel it's slimy, sleazy, models should be in the game. Even if you are somebody that likes the aspect of grinding for the cards, the percentages of pulling certain cards is ridiculously low. They make it so unachievable, not to mention all of the blocks and issues they have had recently where they'll put in CM Punk and they fixed it, but like you'd have Punk, or you got the Wolf Pack now is out for Persona cards, but certain aspects of their attires are now like pulled out of community creations because they're in Persona, and they're recycling so much stuff from previous years, which is a downer. I like the Wolf Pack that they have come out with, but the odds of getting that stuff is so ridiculous. And then there's a decent chance that you're just gonna say, hey, we got a DLC pack and it's all of the Wolf Pack. I'm kind of like, I'm in more of the camp of, I don't want it in my video game. That's where I stand for most of it. And like Just Mass Does Wrestling follows up with this by saying the concept of My Faction is really cool. It's just grinding and screwy nature of getting good Persona cards that makes just feel like a scam. It does when we had like earlier on this year, we had like the Rock final boss, not really, but just a tank top. And people were spending hundreds of dollars to get that. And it's not well balanced. You have elements of the superstars where you're like, okay, well, they don't have any different entrance motion. They don't have the Titantron. You even had like stuff where they do like kind of neat things where you're like, okay, here's Dom Mysterio with the mask. Well, they put all the creation beats for that in the pieces in the female creation suites. You can't even use it, which I understand, but like, you're blocking players more and more. It's not a great thing, I gotta be honest. Mr. Dippy Walfrez has a hot take on Showcase, but before we do that, I want to talk about today's sponsor because it's kind of cool.
This is the Nixie Master P1 wireless controller. It works for PC, Nintendo Switch, iOS, and Android. I gotta tell you, I am loving this controller. I play a lot of WWE 2K on the channel here, go figure, but this controller really stands out to me because it has a lot of awesome features. One of them we got to talk about is going to be this little mute button that you got right here. This will work with your PC so you can mute and unmute the volume directly for the computer, and it has the volume options at the bottom for going up and down for the volume, which is a great touch. The other thing you have is going to be a very nice matte finish, which I like, and these nice texture grips here on the side. Your palms get sweaty, and then you're gonna be able to hold on real tight as you're going through all these matches. Another key feature that, well, it's just I like is just RGB lights. So like if you know me, then I'm a big fan, and this thing is glowing up, and you can adjust the RGBs how you see fit, giving you a ton of different options to play with. Other features include adjusting the rumble intensity and changing it to like 4 different rumble intensities that work best for you. The triggers on the back as well, you can change these to be locked or unlocked, which I really like, because if I am going to have these, I can lock them in place where they just got a little bit of a trigger, and then if I open it up, and I unlock it, you could press all the way down, and it's really cool. The other big thing that Nixie's talking about here is going to be the programmable buttons that we have available. You could reprogram this controller how you see fit based on the game that you are playing. And for Black Friday, they got a sale on right now on the website till November 30th. You get the Master P1 20% off. Check out the link in the description below. Nixie has created a really good controller here that you definitely want to check out.
Mr. Dippy Walfrez, I just like Mr. Dippy as a name, says, hot take, 2K having a 2K showcase isn't the problem. Oh my gosh, what is it? It's the way they go about making the mode. You need to go back to the old style, 2K15, 16, and 19, and get rid of the slingshot, and include a couple of 1 to 2 hour showcases as DLC. Dude, Mr. Dippy Dewdog Day, I am with you. You've gotten to this point now in the franchise with 2K that you've gotten to 40 years of WrestleMania, and in the current kind of reign of 2K coming back from 2K20's debacle, you had over a year gap and you hit the reset button in certain ways, and you gave us a Rey Mysterio showcase, a John Cena showcase, and then you gave us the Mania one. And they're all essentially the exact same thing. Cena had the little twist where you're playing as everybody else. Rey Mysterio was just playing as Rey Mysterio. And obviously 40 years of Mania, you got some cool stuff, but you didn't get enough variety. And you also have like Brock Lesnar, which I know they blocked him out, but like he's in showcase twice. Just put him in the game. And then like you didn't get enough variety, I felt like. We didn't get enough matches for across 40 years. And Slingshot Tech, we talked about, I don't care for it either. I'm kind of done with it. I think that they need to try to create something totally new, unique, different. If not, and they're just kind of set on, hey, this is the thing that we want to be able to add in as additional content for every single year, fine, so be it. But like you said, Mr. Dippy, go back to the days of adding in a 1 to 2 hour showcases DLC. Make that as part of the content where you're going to get DLC wrestlers that are included. Like, here's how you beef up DLC to give players a lot of value. You do the normal like 5 wrestlers in a DLC pack. You then give players, and they won't do this, you give players then a 1 to 2 hour showcase that's included, and those characters, those wrestlers, let's just say it's Triple H Randy Orton showcase match for 2 hours. Then you're gonna get those models and versions of Randy and Triple H in there, all their attire parts, the moves, and you also get the arenas that were in that showcase DLC. That's a ton of packed in value and some replay stuff where you've expanded on showcase. It's way more engaging. Gunark08 says, I love everything about gameplay this year, but I think it could be even better if chain wrestling comes back. Also, I want the slow count from the referee like we had in 2K23. You want the slow count? Like the glitch? Where they slowed it? That ain't right. What's wrong with you? I'm kidding. If you want, so gameplay I feel is probably, I can't say it's at its peak because there's problems. Like the balancing of the AI is an issue. I've seen a million things online where I'm like, okay, this guy's glitched in the corner. People are just constantly cycling in and out of the ring. There's always going to be problems with the gameplay. Is it getting to a healthier spot? I'd say overall, yes, for just the gameplay itself. Now, do I wish I had a control option for going back to like 2K19 controls and being able to swap? Sure, that'd be fun because I think people really like those controls. I went back and played 2K19 a couple months ago and I was like, oh, number one, it felt weird because I hadn't done it in a while. But two, I think it just had more depth. I understand they try to simplify the controls, but for gameplay, yeah, I think it's good, but they still need a little bit more work on it. I like to see things like you said, chain wrestling, I hope makes a comeback. I think players want it. They got to get rid of the fighting stances. Like it's not a boxing game. It's not Mortal Kombat. It's a wrestling game. Stop giving wrestlers the generic fighting it doesn't make any sense. Like have them create generic ones or unique ones like Undertaker, or having them just look a certain way or they stand a certain way. Just use those and apply those to the majority of the wrestlers. But then I want things like, I don't know, more unique submission techniques and moves and animations where they're actually going to go back like we had in the other games where they would crawl to the ropes and try to break a rope break and then the camera would go on them. That stuff adds to the drama of it. Chain wrestling, yes please. Scuba Steve, well Scuba 4 Steve for life says, while 2K24 might be the best wrestling game since SmackDown vs. Raw series, careful Scuba Steve, GM mode is good, but it could be a whole lot better. So here's the thing, GM mode, it doesn't get enough attention and love as I feel it should. GM mode, I played it more this year than I did universe mode, because universe mode is very outdated and does nothing for me anymore, brother. GM mode has more potential. And if you're a regular person here on the channel, hi, but I've often said the controversial tone and remarks of like, hey, combine universe and GM mode, and people are either like, yeah, do that, or and a lot of people are like, no, you're a moron. And I'm like, that's fine. But I do think that GM mode has more potential to be bigger and eclipse the current element of universe mode in the franchise. The reason being is that universe mode has been dragged along in the mud for like 10 plus years with the same system, and it's duct taped together. And the devs have even talked about this, how like you do one thing, it's gonna break another thing. Like they're very limited on what they can do with it. GM mode has been built from the ground up with this current team since 2K22. It was a fan favorite mode that people requested to bring back, and they did. They listened and they did bring it back. Is it perfect? Absolutely not. From 22 to 24, it has seen improvements and updates and changes. And in 24, I like what they did for aesthetically doing stuff, how like it's all laid out with the menus. It's got a little bit more depth. Trading options are in there. But the core thing that needs to be updated for GM mode, in my opinion, is giving us, well, making it fully robust. Not limiting us for the amount of free agents that we're going to sign when we're going to do a draft. Let us build up our roster huge. Don't limit us. Put every title in there. I think we got all the titles, but give us all title options, more customization, put in every single match type, and a full calendar that we can look at, that we can look across and say, okay, I got WCW on Monday Nitro. Okay, I'm running that every week, and I can see the PLEs are coming up. Instead of just clicking and I'm just going to the next week, and then like I forget, I'm like, oh, this is a pay-per-view week. Oops, I gotta build my card. I can tell you right now, as just somebody looking in the crystal ball, I think that there is a bigger chance that my GM gets more love and expanded upon, because the devs would, in my opinion, have more control over the assets and how the build is. They can add to it and it's cleaner. And universe mode is it's just so taped together, man. UFW Carlos says, hot take, please improve universe mode. I sometimes feel no reason to play universe over play now, because it is essentially the same thing, just with a little bit of story. I totally agree. I tried universe mode for the first, I feel like 2 months. Like I go into it periodically, but there's nothing there that's different than the last several years. And even before with 2K19 and prior to that, it doesn't have anything new. Like we can't even get basic things done right in there. They take out like show intros people wanted. They couldn't even patch those back in, or they didn't want to, probably because it broke something. There's just fundamentally so much wrong with it, and it's boring. And I totally agree though. I spent more time this year, I noticed, in just regular play now exhibition than anything else in the game. And I don't want that. I want to go into universe mode and have like fully customized stories and elements in there. That's what I want. Our Bolson 113 says, hot take, when they decide to sunset 2K24 server, they should release a DLC that allows you to download the rest of the My Faction Persona cards for a single price. They won't make any money off of them after the server goes down, so this would be a good way to make some last minute money off of the game. You could do that. I do agree that you'd have a little bit more success with people if you just released them as like just DLC, or price reduce them entirely. I think the problem is, I'm like, well, then there's no incentive during the year. Players might pull back and be like, well, I'll just wait if they do like a bundle pack DLC at the end of the year, and then I'll grab that instead of trying to grind it out. But then again, I mean, you still get people that are just going to play it anyways, and they're going to want to grind it. I do agree that I just think that like the Persona cards are way too hard to get. And if you could treat them like a DLC within My Faction mode, but make them achievable and priced right, then they're essentially DLC to me. Like if they're $2 or $5 a pop, then just do that. Typical Teenager says, hot take, we need more rivalry slots in universe mode and some updates on promos like in the ring and backstage, also interactions with the GM. I would also see number one contender tournament. Cool. Does that sound fun? Number one contender tournament does sound fun. I think that they should bring number one contendership. Hey, 2K devs, match type idea. The game is already well in development and you've already figured everything out probably, and you're making tweaks. Please, just there's a lot we want. Number one contendership matches as a match type, match option. Try to do that, because number one contendership matches, they matter, and we get those on TV every week. If you could try to do that where it's just a matter of a stipulation, the ring announcers, the commentary, they lean into it, like focusing on the fact that it is a number one contendership match, and that element can apply to things like universe mode in the rankings. So if I win the number one contendership match and I'm Jey Uso, then in universe mode, I should be moving up to the contendership for the world title as number one. Something like that, that goes a long way. Rivalry slots, 100%, but this is where universe mode just needs way more like overhaul entirely. We are still stuck on 4 slots. We can't get proper factions in the game. You can't even get multi-person rivalries. Like before we even get more rivalry slots in there, which they should just be able to add more. Before we even get that, like we need 3-way, 4-way rivalries, faction rivalry wars. Like we need some basic stuff done. Odd Gaming says, I'm actually surprised that I played this game less than with 2K23. This was due to the fact that the 2K24 had issues with the image limit system, where I'm sure that I have slots available, but I just couldn't download anything. I've experienced the same thing. I think that Creation Suite has a ton of problems. I think that the image slot limit that they keep doing, I don't think it's going to change, unfortunately. I think that they're just kind of stuck on that for making things work. But your main thing of like, you played it less than 2K23. So I've talked to other people in the community, I've talked to other creators within 2K, and they kind of say the same thing as me and what you're saying. And I felt that way this year too. I've put in less time with the game, just casually. I've done it for content and doing what I do, but just overall, I've had less enthusiasm for this year's game. It's odd because the game gave me a lot of match types that I really do enjoy, and I go in and I'll mess around, but again, I'm just an exhibition. I think it's missing the depth. For me, the 2K franchise right now at 24, yeah, I played way more of 23. And I don't know really what that is, what that contributes to. Because it 2K24 should be something that I'm playing way more, and I'm just not. There's such a huge focus on my faction. Servers and other things are not working right. And modes like universe mode, I think I was hoping for way more, because something like a story mode, a universe mode brings me back. A story mode, universe mode that is up to date and working keeps me in there and keeps me engaged in playing the game way more often. Building out custom stories, building out custom matches and brands and all of that. And I can just sit there and tinker and play and have a good time with it. And it's missing that hook for me this year. Tim Lowndes says, hot take, none of these hot takes are actually hot takes. How dare you, Tim? Yes, sassy mother effer. He says, just kidding, love you community. Thanks, Tim. And this one here, we got Jonathan McCormack says, the DLCs for this game are the worst of the whole series. Oh my gosh, that's a long time of hating things outside of the 2K originals and 2K20. So I can kind of feel you out there. It's hard in a little comment, but you like having the custom stuff versus like it's original content versus just here's more legends and models. I kind of see your point. You want something new and fresh and different that hasn't been done before, and that makes you feel maybe like you got your money's worth out of it versus just, hey, here's more DLC characters like you've seen in previous games, and now they recycle them as like brand new DLC. And I got that impression with the WCW pack for a lot of people. Now, I like the WCW pack because I'm a WCW fan, but I see what people are saying, where I see a lot of comments and takes that people are not impressed with the WCW pack because they're like, well, we've had DDP, we've had Mr. Perfect, they should have been in the game. And that kind of goes for like a lot of the DLC. They gotta, if they want to keep going with this DLC model that they've been doing forever, then they kind of are stuck in a hard place here, because they have to put out so many models, so many legends and superstars every year, balance these packs out, give people a lot of value for them. Do they make the cut into the base game, or do we hold them for DLC? But I think they need to try more unique things with DLC. I mean, personally, I wish that they would skip 2 years of the game and just say, here's 2K25, it's your base game, and we're gonna give you content updates, match types, showcase pieces throughout the 2 years and build this entire game that you have. Because when you look at my faction and persona cards, it's really hard for a guy like me, for example, to grind and grind and grind for hours to get these persona models, get that attire, only to know that, well, this is all going, and it's the same for DLC, but it's like, it's all going to expire at the end of the year. And then I gotta start all over again. I mean, that's video games. Like, that's not just 2K, that's everything. but it just kind of, I don't really like that. I want to be able to have a game that they build upon, and they won't because it's an annual franchise, and that's the nature of the beast. But I can see that with DLC, when people are buying the ultimate edition of a game, of any game, wanting to be like, hey, here's everything. Like Bray Wyatt's DLC was great. It's a great homage to Bray. It's a wonderful thing they did, and they added a lot in there. However, a lot of people make the argument that they go, well, I bought the 40 years edition, I bought the ultimate edition of the game. Don't I get all DLC? Oh, this wasn't announced DLC. Only the stuff we announced is it. So I get what people say when they're like, they're not happy with how some of the DLC turns out. And also, it's gonna be preference. People like certain aspects of the DLC. Some of the packs I didn't care for at all. I like the ECW Punk pack, but it was basically for CM Punk. Global Superstars pack, they should have just been in the game, but they're DLC, and that was, for me, one of the best DLC packs they did. I like they added in Fall Brawl. They added in more moves. They did more weapons, and that's stuff I want them to do more of when it comes to DLC specifically. But next year's game has a lot of work. A lot of people will get upset about things, but things that people are not like talking about here. I'm shocked. I'm going through the comments. No one mentioned online servers as a hot take. Like I guess it's not really a hot take, is it? Because we all know that the servers are trash. I hope they fix it, man, but we'll see. Guys, if you enjoy videos like this, thanks so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Support the channel by just doing a simple thing of hitting subscribe below and a thumbs up. It goes a long, long way to help us grow here. I appreciate it. Have a great day. See ya. I'm gonna go back to work. Well, actually, I'm gonna drink more coffee. You know what I got here is I got a Simpsons mug. I went to Disney. I was gone on vacation. There he is. I got a Homer Simpsons mug, and it has the hole in the middle. You could stick your finger in it. That's what she said. It's gross, but I love it. It's a donut mug. It's got carbs on the back. It's fun. I'm old. I'm silly.